So first of all, welcome everybody, and actually I think Lee, this is your slide. So.
Okay.
Go for it.
So my name is Lee Pardee, and I'm chair of membership at First Unitarian Congregational Society in Brooklyn. And our workshop, I hope you know, is called How to Be a Can't Miss Congregation, and we feel like we've really progressed quite a ways recently in our congregation and are at quite a good place, and we thought we would share some of the things that we think have gotten us there with all of you. Introduce yourself.
Yes, so I'm Garnet Losak, and I'm the director of, brand new this year, director of membership. It's actually a staff, director of membership and communications. It's actually a staff position. It's a half-time position, but it is a staff position. Brand new staff position. There aren't, I actually looked, there are, I think, 4 or 5 membership directors in the whole district. So it's kind of exciting to, and you know, membership directors are sort of starting to develop this profession of director of membership, and it's really, really exciting. And I hope, and it's one of the reasons, it's a culmination of a lot of work, that developing the position is a culmination of a lot of work on membership in our congregation, and then having the position is really exciting. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well.
So one of the things we want to do in this workshop is model some of the things, some of the activities that we think, again, have contributed to our current success as a congregation. And one of those is we try for almost all of our group activities to begin with the chalice lighting and opening words, any kind of meeting.
So, our opening words, Lee is going to light our chalice, bought at the bookstore, because it was easier to buy one than to carry one.
And it was time for Garnet to have a car.
And it was time for me to have a chalice at home, right? So, which I, believe it or not, I didn't have. So our opening words are from Anne Hillman. We are all on a journey together to the center of the universe. Look deep into yourself, into another. It is to a center which is everywhere that is the holy journey. First you need only look. Notice and honor the radiance of everything about you. Play in this universe. Tend all these shining things around you. The smallest plant, the creatures and objects in your care. Be gentle and nurture. Listen. As we experience and accept all that we really are, we grow in care. We begin to embrace others as ourselves and learn to live as one among many.
Is this me?
I think this is you. we did rehearse. We did, really.
So when we open with the chalice lighting and words, one of the things we find, especially, well, in all of our activities, and particularly in our congregational meetings, it helps put people in the right frame of mind to remember they are part of a religious institution and they should behave well, and that we care about each other. So, so what does a can't miss congregation look like? Why do we think that we are a can't miss congregation? Well, our members are at worship services all the time. We have almost as many people in worship on Sunday as we have members, sometimes more. Our visitors, we have lots, now we do live in Brooklyn, all right, so not everybody lives in a major metropolitan center, but still, we have visitors, and we've always had visitors, but our visitors return, so that's a major improvement that we've seen in recent years. Our members and our visitors stay for coffee hour, which is a large and fairly raucous activity after worship. We have welcome cards, visitor cards in our pews and on our welcome table, and people fill them out with lots of really good information. We've updated them this year, so we get even better information. Having a membership director helped us think about what was better information for us to gather and put it on a fresh card that was easier to read and easier to input into a data system, and people fill that out and help us then reach out to them. And we have a lot of activities going on Sunday afternoons, after worship, after coffee hour, and a lot of people stay for them. So these are many of the things that make us think that things are going very well with us these days at First U Brooklyn. I think this is you.
Yeah, this is me. So how do we measure success? So, we talk about membership a lot. That's always the easy way to say, oh, our members, we had 100 members last year, now we've got 110, and then we had 120, and that's good. But honestly, I think that there are more ways, and in some cases, better ways to measure membership, to measure success. One is Sunday attendance. In fact, I think Sunday attendance is a better way to measure the success of a congregation than membership. Membership is, some of you have been to some of the other workshops, so there's been a lot of talk about membership, and what does membership mean, especially with young adults. Are they so likely to sign your membership book or become members and to join the congregation? But are they participating? And of course, the one important way to participate is in Sunday attendance. And I'm going to show you a chart in a little bit that shows you what's going on with our Sunday attendance. Increase in religious education, registration, and attendance. Another way, again, I think a better way than membership. And then money. Are people giving more this year than they were giving last year? And is your overall congregational generosity going up? And honestly, I think the 2, 3, and 4 are more important measurements of success in a congregation than membership, although we tend to focus on membership. So, story of First Unitarian.
Yeah, so how did we get here? So we are a fairly historic congregation, not the oldest of the old, but pretty old. We began in 1833. We built our beautiful neo-Gothic structure in 1844. We had originally just plain white glass, and then at the turn of the last century, Tiffany was very hot, so now we have beautiful Tiffany stained glass windows throughout the sanctuary. It's a very, very beautiful, beautiful structure, not particularly accessible, not particularly UU looking, but very, very pretty and very beautiful and very historic. We also, in the last century, we had 3 ministers, pretty much 3 ministers in all of the 20th century. We were arguing earlier, we should have done our research, who the first one was. I'm thinking maybe it was Eliot, who then became the head of the president of the UUA. But we know the last 2, because the second one was John Howland Lathrop, who was minister of the congregation, minister and minister emeritus for 60 years. And succeeding him was Donald McKinney, still living out in, I don't know if he's out on Long Island, maybe still in Southold. And he was our assistant minister for 5 years, and then our senior minister for 35 years, retiring in 1995. So 2 ministers for almost 100, well, for about 95 years, for 2 ministers. So that was our history for most of the 20th century. In terms of our congregational life, very, very stable. Of course, the world was not stable. There was World War II, there were wars, there was the Vietnam War, there was the peace movement, there was black empowerment, there was a lot going on in the world, but in our congregation, life was steady, life was predictable, and our ministers were with us, and it was very, very stable, and we knew exactly where we were for all those many years. And
then our minister retired and we went into search. Now you have to remember, this is a congregation that had never done search ever, because McKinney, well, never in anyone's lifetime anyway, Reverend McKinney succeeded Reverend Lathrop, no search. No one was alive, no one in the congregation was alive before Lathrop. And most people had never even known Lathrop. So, so we have a congregation of people who, many of them had never known any other minister in their whole lives but Donald McKinney. He retires, we go into search. There's a fair amount of excitement about what is going to happen to us, and having a new minister, new congregation, people coming in. But they didn't really understand what that meant. And this might be a familiar story to many people here because I hear it all the time. So there's sort of like, oh, we're going to have new people, but people didn't really understand that new people also meant different people. They meant people with different ideas. They meant people who are going to come in and want things to happen and want changes to happen. And there just wasn't an understanding that these were the things that were going to happen, but they did. And so Reverend Fred Wooden became our minister. He was our minister for 10 years. And with Fred came a lot of change. Changes in the worship service, changes in the style of worship, changes in governance, changes in people, and a lot of anxiety. And that anxiety created an enormous rift in our congregation. In fact, I'd say it was so bad that it could have been life-threatening to the congregation. We lost a lot of people. There are still people who are still angry about what happened in our congregation. So we're going to go back to the 3 senior ministers and 3 interims in less than 20 years. But imagine your own congregations, right? 100 years of total calm within the congregation, not in the world, but in the congregation. Not a lot of growth, but nice, steady, comfortable congregation. And then 3 senior ministers and 3 interims in 20 years. All right. So what happened?
So there was conflict. There was a rift. There were the people who supported the minister. There were people who were upset with the minister. It became a very uncomfortable place to be. And eventually the minister left, and we were left with each other. And we got, fortunately, a very strong interim who came in, and we had to start figuring out what we were going to do if we were going to survive. And the first thing that we did was we put together a right relations task force to work out some of our issues, and then to develop a right relations covenant. Because in this process of conflict, there was quite a lot of bad behavior, some of it by some of the people standing in front of you and holding a microphone. And so we had a lot of work to do to learn how to behave and to be in covenantal relationship and to be a good congregation. The task force pulled together people who were on both sides of the issue, and there were very strong feelings, and it was really, really challenging for that group. And first of all, they had to rebuild trust among themselves, and then from the work that they did with themselves, they were able to figure out how to help us all behave.
Yeah, we do.
So do we have a right relations covenant?
We do.
Okay. So we created a right relations covenant.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll put all
We'll
the
put them
handouts
up
up
there.
here,
Okay.
and anything that anybody wants,
All
you
right.
can pick up. And probably don't have enough for everybody, but we can give us your email addresses and we'll get stuff to everybody.
Okay.
If you want anything, we'll get it.
So we created a right relations covenant, and we also trained conciliators, because we had a lot of people not behaving also well and not treating each other very well. And I was actually one of the trained conciliators, and we never actually had to do any conciliation, because the minute that you told people or started talking to people about maybe they needed some conciliation, they mostly didn't really want that, and they would start behaving better so that they didn't have to be conciliated. It was very interesting. It's very interesting when you actually start addressing behavior as to what happens. But it was a really good resource to have, and to feel strong enough that you could speak to people, that first of all, people who were feeling treated badly could come to you and ask for help, or come to the Committee on Ministries, or come and just ask for assistance and conciliation and be heard. And then when the other party was addressed and said, you hurt somebody's feelings and we need to talk to you about that, some very interesting reactions, and that got a lot of people's attention that we were really quite serious about changing our behavior. Because it's one thing to write a covenant, and it's another thing to actually use a covenant. And that's, I think, one of the things we're going to say is we need to, well, it comes at the end, practice, practice, practice. Nothing works if you don't use it. We also developed rules for how to handle our congregational meetings. I started that mostly by stealing from the UUA. There were lots of good rules that were used at plenary sessions. And we found that we had congregational meetings that had gotten very unruly, with people, again, saying hurtful things, taking over meetings, really making it so unpleasant. Who would ever want to come to a congregational meeting when you had experienced one? Once we instituted some rules, and there's some very basic rules, mostly very similar to what's used at plenary sessions at GA, about time limits, taking turns, pros and cons, and if there's not any more people on one side, we're just going to stop and move forward to a vote. Some very basic rules, having to abide by our regulations covenant and speak respectfully to each other, assume that even if someone doesn't agree with you, they're still deserving of inherent worth and dignity. Doing congregational rules and using those helped a lot too. And then we were able to institute those changes, the Right Relations Covenant, the task force, the covenant, the rules, conciliation, because we had a lot of support from the ministerial leadership at that time, which was our initially our 2-year interim, and then ongoing support from the minister and from the leadership on the board to really, help keep us practicing the things that we had developed. So then the last thing is practice, practice, practice. We had to remember and remind ourselves, as one of us in the congregation had to remember as we got organized at the last minute, usually for a congregational meeting. Oh yeah, we need rules. Oh yeah, we should talk about the covenant. How about if we read the covenant at the start of the meeting to remind ourselves how we're going to be with each other? And that really, just brought temperature down and really helped people remember that they were in a religious institution, that they were here to develop themselves as good human beings, and that's why they were coming to church. And so all these things really helped by doing them again and again.
So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the structures that we put in place. So now we've got people behaving better, right? And we've got now some people are starting to come out. I just want to tell you one thing. So 20 years ago, people would walk into our congregation, new people would walk into our, we had a lot of visitors. I mean, I can tell you that we had last year, this year that we're in right now, we will have had over 300 people visit our congregation who filled out cards. 300 filled out cards. So, at least that many, if not more, came and didn't fill out a card, right? So we probably get 600 visitors to our congregation every year on a Sunday morning.
How many members do you have?
Believe it or not, we only have about 230 members. We're going to go into some more statistics about that in a little bit. Although we have 250 people in worship most Sundays. So now we're behaving better, right? And things are starting to calm down, and people are now, instead of walking into the church and as a visitor and going, ooh, eek, something doesn't feel good here. Can't really put our hands on it, but there's something kind of ugly not happening here. We don't like it, we're leaving. And they did. Now we have people coming into the congregation who say, I was here 15 years ago and I couldn't stand it. It didn't feel good here, and now it feels great. So we know for a fact that it feels better immediately. You can feel it in the air. You can feel friendliness in the air. We have to ring a bell to get people to sit down after the greeting. People they won't sit down. So we have to ring a bell. People get up. It used to be where you kind of maybe turn around and sort of wave at the person behind you, or shake their hand, sort of maybe. Now we get out of our seats and we walk up and down the aisles and ring a bell. Okay, So one of the things was communications, making sure that that everybody in the congregation knows what's going on. And so we started with our website, which had sort of like been sitting there, nobody really paying any attention to it. These are as I thought of them, so excuse me if I jump all over them. Our Facebook page is really dynamic. We have 230 members. We have 800 friends on Facebook. We have postings all the time. Now, we have a staff position that does this, so it's me. But we do it. So we have a Facebook page that's extremely dynamic, that's very vibrant, that has a lot of stuff going on it. We have a weekly e-newsletter. We have order of service announcements. We have a quarterly printed newsletter that includes the board stuff, hopefully, most of the time, usually, if I bug them. We have a website that is changed every Sunday. The website changes and says what's happening the following Sunday. So on Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning, website says one thing. On Sunday afternoon, it says what's happening the following Sunday at church. So you can go to our webpage and you can know exactly what's happening on the front page the following Sunday. Who's going to preach? What kind of, something about the music. And if I don't have it all, I'll update it throughout the week. We now podcast our sermons, and they are posted on Tuesdays usually. So if you miss a service, you can listen or you can read the sermon. We have written communications policy, which I have a copy of if anybody would like to share a communications policy, which says who gets to do what, who gets to communicate how, and how it needs to be written, which it's it can be a problem, right? So we sort of fixed that. It was sort of a little bit of a problem. And it says Still to Come Twitter account, but I got irritated that it was a Still to Come. So yesterday I started our Twitter account. So we now have a Twitter account, and I think I looked today, we have 17 followers. So we're moving forward. But
what's your handle?
First, that's a good question. First UU Brooklyn. First UU Brooklyn. I've gone the wrong way, sorry. There we go.
Okay. And I just want to say a little bit more about the website, which these days I think, and when we talked, you probably see the cards, but an awful lot of people come to us after shopping online, looking for a congregation, and I've spoken to a number of people who have read or listened to some of the sermons before deciding to come to our congregation. So I think it's one of the most important ways to put yourself out there for people to find you. And so it's really important. I think that's good. Something else I was going to say. Maybe it'll come back to me. So communications, and then we made some structural changes as well. So we changed our bylaws about membership, and we require people to pledge to be a voting member. That was a big deal.
How much do you? Is there
At least a penny.
Oh.
At least a penny.
Okay.
And if you can't afford that, you can ask for a waiver from the minister.
Okay.
But the requirement for membership is a pledge. And believe me, there was a lot of naysayers when we decided to make that change. People were really concerned that we would lose a lot of members and that it was discriminatory towards people without money or with little money. It does not seem to, certainly has not caused us to lose members at all. Although you'll see that it looked like we were losing members, but we weren't. We'll explain that later, but really there's no reason that someone can't be a member even though we have a requirement of pledging. We had to become extremely responsible, as I'm sure all of you have in recent years, with our finances. As an old congregation, we have a substantial endowment, or we had, and then 2008 happened, and we didn't have. And all of a sudden, we had to make a lot of cuts, and it was extremely painful. And we had to really get our financial house in order and make some very, very big decisions about how we were going to manage things. And those were not easy. Those were some difficult congregational meetings about selling some important properties and things that we owned. And they weren't always happy, but I'll tell you, those congregational rules really, really helped, and that right relations covenant really, really helped us get through very hard decisions that we had to make. And we framed it with a goal of that we really had to be responsible stewards. If we were going to continue into the future, we had to be responsible stewards. We had to have a budget that was balanced and was going to go forward, and we couldn't continue to drain our endowment and just, wait for somebody else to pick up the pieces down the road, because the road was getting pretty short there. So we did that. We created a pastoral care team, and that's still under development, but it's something that you really need as you grow. One minister cannot take care of every problem of every person in your congregation as you get larger, and one of the things about shared ministry is it has to be shared. And obviously you need your ministers to really think about who are the people who belong on a pastoral care team, and there are different levels of pastoral care. There's everything from delivering soup to people who have had foot surgery, to visiting people in hospitals, to visiting congregants who've just lost a loved one to death. So, there's very different levels, and different people have the capability of assisting in different ways. But to have that, to have a team to assist your minister in making sure that all people have some help when they need it, and that they know that there's help to be had. An awful lot of people come to congregations when they're hurting, and so they need to know there's a place where they can be heard and might find some help. What else did we do? Worship committee. So we've really developed, we've brought a lot of lay people into worship. Of course, that requires your minister to go along with that program, so you have to get the minister to buy into the whole idea of expanding worship and having lay people participate. We have lay people like the chalice, we have lay people doing readings. We currently have, our current minister has lay worship assistants, and she chooses a new team each year. She seems very intentional about picking people who represent a wide range of people in our congregation, old, young, different ethnicities. We have always have, the last 2 years, we've had a youth to be one of our lay leaders, and it's just such an amazing message for newcomers to come into our congregation and see a youth helping to lead worship in a professional and really well done manner, not just any sloppy stuff. They're trained, they know it, they do a good job. Share the plate. I think we heard at one of the awards today that somebody's doing Share the Plate. Your congregation. What
You're
congregation?
giving it all the way, right?
Somerset Hills.
Yeah, you're giving it all the way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We're working on it.
Well, we have given it all the way in the past. We're giving half right now.
Okay, so we're gonna
We
get-
aspire to do more.
Yeah.
So we're doing half as well. We've been doing it for 3 or 4
I
years.
think more than that.
More than that?
It's more like 7.
7 years? Okay.
Yeah.
And so first of all, our plate has increased. We get more now than we ever got before, and we give away about $1,000 a month to different organizations. And we just a few months ago created a committee to develop how are we supposed to select, how should we select the groups that get this these funds each year. So that's also building lay participation in choosing where will our gifts go. So that's been fun for us. And then we created just this year our new position for Director of Membership and Communications. And as the chair of membership for the past 3 or 4 years, I can't tell you how glad I am to have someone on staff to do the million things that really need to be done to have a good membership program, such as every week, Monday or Tuesday, every visitor who filled out a card gets a phone call or an email from this person saying, so glad you came, how was it, what brought you to us, what are you interested in, just reaching out. And such a high percentage then come back, having just that little bit of outreach. But without having a position, it's really hard for a lay person to have, most of us have to go to jobs. So to do that, it requires someone who can be really committed to that level of time. So that's been a real benefit to us, yeah.
Is it a full-time position?
It's a half-time position.
Half-time?
Yeah,
Half-time,
yeah.
she only works full-time, half the time.
That's what you only get paid for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's right. I was gonna say, I really, I've been a member of the congregation for a lot of years. And, I left another career and I was able, it's a little bit of a unique situation. I was board president, I was chair of our last search committee, and I was in a financial position to be able to take a part-time job. The truth is, I work more than 20 hours. Yeah. And the church is lucky to have me, and I'm very happy to be able to do what I do. So it doesn't necessarily work for everyone in this particular situation. So the thing
Yeah, we actually have a policy in our church that we cannot
yeah,
hire
we
convicts.
do too.
Right.
We have that policy
Right.
too. Yeah. So there you go. We do too. And there was a little bit. Honestly, there was a little bit of a little issue with hiring me. But I'll tell you why it worked, or why it ended up working. We have a brand new minister. This is only her second year, right? We have a brand new director of religious education. Our MRE before our current DRE was Jude Geiger, who is the minister in Huntington now. So he left. We have a brand new minister. And I kind of went to the board and said, so we have a DRE who doesn't know how to find the bathroom. And by the way, finding the bathroom in our church is really hard. It is really hard. This is an urban congregation. It's a maze. So we have a DRE who doesn't know anybody's name and can't find the bathroom, and we have a minister who's in her second year and probably only knows by name 25% of the congregation. And you're going to hire a brand new membership director. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. And so. Anyway, they acquiesced, but we too have that policy. So, and it's another issue. It's another issue. So, did I skip? I went back by accident. Sorry. So the other thing we did is we started. We've always had social events, but I'll tell you, I was the chair of the search committee, and we did a very extensive congregational survey. We may not do that again. Very extensive congregational survey, as most search committees did. But one of the things that came out is that an enormous amount of the people who came to our congregation came for community. It was the number one answer by a lot. So the question was, why did you originally come to our congregation? I don't even remember what the other answers were, but community was number one. That was especially true among young adults. And let me tell you something, we have a ton of young adults in our congregation, a ton. It is our greatest growth area. We're in Brooklyn, right? That's also the greatest growth area of Brooklyn.
Right.
But you can lead a horse to water, you can't necessarily make them drink. So you have to offer something. Just because they walk in the door doesn't mean they're going to come back. So we started thinking really about what are we offering people to develop community. So we started what we call fudge dinners. It's a little goofy, but it's First Unitarian Universalist Dinner Groups Extraordinaire. And these are like small group ministries, really. There's casual small group ministries, but they're dinner groups that are formed. We formed them at the beginning of the year. They have dinner together once a month. They're multi-generational. They work really well, and they're really fun. I have a dinner group. They're really, really fun. Great. A lot of young people, a lot of new people like the fudge groups. We have a lot of affinity groups. We call them the TNTs. It's 20s and 30s. They go to brunches. They have all kinds of they do all kinds of stuff together. They have a lot. Our 20s and 30s are very integrated with the congregation, but they've also developed a lot of things that they do on their own. We have LGBTQ brunches. We have the Geezers, self-named. We didn't name them that. They call themselves the Geezers. Imagine who they are, right? The Women's Alliance has a whole bunch of our Women's Alliance has been around forever and ever and ever, but it has really come a long way in the last couple of years. They've picked up on a lot of the excitement in the congregation. They're much more active than they had been for years. More events for families and children. We have movie nights, game nights, the occasional ice cream social. So we really sort of put a lot of emphasis on having more social events at the church, including our stewardship campaign, which is basically a whole lot of social events. And it's worked really, really well.
And one thing about a lot of these things is they don't cost anything. So one of the things about
Don't
growth.
cost the church anything.
They don't cost the church anything. And they're pretty inexpensive, and we're talking potluck suppers, we're talking going out to brunch. You would have gone out to brunch anyway, but you're going out with a bunch of church people and getting to know church people. So a lot of the things that have helped us build energy, build interest, build membership, build attendance don't really cost money. So we've really been working also on our hospitality. So along with all these activities, how do we help people feel comfortable when they come to us? So I'm going to go to number 3 first, greeters. Greeters and welcomers outside the doors of the church. Most of the time we have our rainbow flag out there too. Our greeters wear a welcome button. They are friendly. They have to be trained. If they don't know, they are taught how to smile. They have to be really friendly. So we have greeters every Sunday. I'm sure many of you have greeters. And we just start being nice as soon as we can to have people come in. As Garnet mentioned, in the worship service, when we have our time of welcoming each other, it is incredibly lively, and people really talk to each other and introduce themselves. We really encourage people to wear their name tags, so that's back to the first thing, name tags. Not only do we have them, we encourage people to wear them. We're not perfect at this, but we keep encouraging people to do that. It's really helpful for all of us. We have a welcome table and coffee hour. I'm sure many of you do, but we also have dedicated staff people. Well, we have dedicated people for that. We have both some folks from our membership committee, but at least one board member works at the welcome table each Sunday, and then sometimes some other folks will hang out. Well, Garnet, you're working at the welcome table now that we have a membership director. But so we make sure that we have several people there because, as she said, we have a lot of visitors, and if you only have one person at your welcome table and they're talking to someone, that leaves all the other people not talked to. We certainly encourage our members to talk to people they don't know, and people are pretty good about that. We provide soup and sandwiches almost every Sunday, and the way that works is we have a sign-up sheet, and one person signs up for soup, one person signs up for sandwiches. It costs $3. You pay yourself back, so you don't, again, it doesn't cost anything for the person who does it. When you do it, you get to meet another person and get to know them a little bit. You also get to say hello to everyone who's coming to have soup and sandwiches. And we always make about $50 or $75 for the church that pays for the coffee, for the rest of the coffee hour. And it's delicious soup as well. People make wonderful soups.
And it helps people stay.
Yes, and it helps
Yeah.
people stay,
Yeah.
yes, because
Yeah.
they're going to stay for an after coffee hour activity if they don't have food.
Yeah.
So this way, if they're going to stay for a meeting, they can grab something to eat, bring it with them, and they can stay for another activity.
How many services do you have?
We have one service, yeah. Okay, so monthly, first Sunday of the month, we have a newcomers orientation, and that is co-led by usually our senior minister, a minister, and by Garnet or another representative from the membership committee, and gives newcomers and visitors a basic orientation to Unitarian Universalism and to our congregation. Just helps get them started. We give everybody a packet of information, flyers and brochures about some of the activities that we do, and that's sort of how we help them get started.
Is that on a track to becoming a member or just separate?
It's pretty much separate. And it's certainly an initial place. Our Path to Membership brochure includes that. We encourage people to meet with a minister. We encourage people to attend some of the other activities, such as a dinner group or a small group ministry. And we have some adult RE activities. So we encourage people to do a lot of those things as they get to understand Unitarian Universalism and get to know us as a congregation. But the newcomer orientation is pretty much separate. We don't have a structured set of classes towards membership.
It really is. I mean, that's what we want to do more. It really is the path for people to keep,
It's
it going rather
it is
than try and do a
it's a first
portal.
step on a
Right,
path, but
right.
people can take different paths
Oh, yeah,
to get
yeah.
to membership. So we have the welcome cards that are both in the pews and on the welcome table that give us information. We encourage people, particularly to sign up for our e-newsletter. It comes out, that means they get an email from us every week and they know what's going on. And that, I think, helps bring the people back. We've worked on our summer worship services. I might talk about that more when we get to worship. Okay, and and so this is something that I thought would never work, ever, which is in our opening welcome words, we invite people who are visiting or have attending for the first time, would they stand up, tell us your name, and tell us where you're from. And I said, well, no one's going to do that. And people do it every week. They do it week after week, and they tell us who they are, where they're from, and we say welcome to them. And most of the time, you can't hear anything they're saying. And when their lips stop moving, you say welcome. And guess what? They feel welcomed.
Right.
And they encourage each other to stand up and say something about themselves. Very little. They say their name. Hi, I'm Lee, and I live in Sunset Park. Welcome. And it works.
And I just want to say about the name tags, everyone who visits our church and fills out a welcome card has a name tag for them next week. They may never see it, they may never pick it up, they may never come back to church. Usually if they fill out a card, they're going to come back a little bit anyway. But I've had several people say it meant so much to them to come back the second time and see a name tag for themselves. It seems like such a little thing, but those little sort of just niceties that you do for people. I also want to say that I do in fact respond to everybody who fills out a welcome card. Everybody gets an email or a phone call from me. And our welcome cards, people check. There's some a few what are you interested in kind of things. It's not too extensive, but it's sort of basic. Are you interested in activities for 20s and 30s? Are you interested in music? Are you interested in worship? And when I send the emails, most people get an email. I will tell you, a lot of people don't give me their phone numbers. It's really interesting. It's almost like, don't call me, don't call me. But I email most people, and I always try to say, so I see by your welcome card that you're interested in the choir. If I can introduce, or you're interested in music, if you'd like me to introduce you to our music director, I'd be more than happy to do that. And I think, again, those little things, we paid attention to what people were interested in. I always, we have like I said, we have a lot of 20s and 30s who come to our congregation. We have a little 20s and 30s committee, they kind of organize themselves. I always give, I always say, I'm going to pass along your information to our 20s and 30s group, and they will get in touch with you directly. The 20s and 30s group does that. They actually respond to every single person. So, this sort of helping people to get directed from filling out a welcome card. How many welcome cards in the, God knows how many years we've had welcome cards in the pews, went into a pile somewhere, and no one ever did anything with them. We put them in the database, and that was it, right? So, yes.
I love that idea of the name tag. I agree. That seems like such a small thing, but for someone to return and see their name there, it creates a symbol and a sense, I think, that they're acknowledged and that they belong.
Yeah, it's really great, and it's better than oh hi, your own handwritten name tag, which basically says, hi, I'm a visitor. I just came for the very first time, sort of as an announcement of your not being a part of a real permanent part of us. Yes.
Yeah, we linked our having a printed out name tag to being a member. That's something you get when you become a member. But I'm thinking that this idea of people, so until they become a member, they have to have this they have to write it out in a
You're a
marker
second-class citizen, right?
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
It'll make
exactly.
them feel more welcome, definitely.
Yeah. And it's not so big a deal. They're these kind. They're these kind.
Yeah.
So, if we notice that no one's picked it up for, a couple of months, we take it out and put a new one, put somebody else's in. It's not a big deal.
I like the idea. We have a guest book, and we don't have pews. We welcome cards and everything, but just add a column in our guest book.
Yeah,
Would you
sure. Would you like a name tag?
Instead of
Or just give them a name tag. I wouldn't even ask. Just give them a name
Well, I
tag.
don't know. Well,
Give them a name tag.
because we have it like a two-step. Like,
Right.
you have to, they don't know that if you put your name on the list in the foyer, you'll get it. So I like that idea, and also, everybody, we say, would you like the newsletter by email? Everybody doesn't want it.
Yeah, well, we give everybody the newsletter by email.
If they say, check.
No, if they fill out an ad welcome card, they get it. Yeah. And if they want to unsubscribe, they unsubscribe. But that's another thing I say to them when they, you know, when I respond to them, I say, I've you know, included you. You'll start to get our weekly e-newsletter this week, and you know, if they want to unsubscribe, they can unsubscribe. But again, it's this sort of being proactive with people. Like, you came to us, and so you must be looking for something from us. So we are going to give you things. I read an article recently which made all the sense in the world to me. Actually, I think it was from the UUA. It might have been in Interconnections or something. And it was about how more and more people who come to our congregations for the first time have already educated themselves.
Right.
They already know what they're coming into. They've already listened to sermons
And how did they find that? How did they
through the
find
website.
The website.
Through the website. So they've already done their research. This isn't like 30 years ago when you kind of go and you go, see what this is all about. So they've already listened to I've talked to a lot of newcomers. You know, the best part of my job is I get to actually talk to a lot of these folks, and they'll say, and I'll say, well, why did you come? What made you get up this Sunday morning or last Sunday morning and say, I'm going to go over to that church. I'm going to you know, to get on the train and go to Brooklyn Heights because I've heard good things about that church, or I'm curious about it. What made you decide to do that instead of going out to brunch with your friends, or instead of staying in bed, or instead of playing softball, all the myriad of other things that you could do? And invariably they say, I listened to a couple of sermons on the website. I really liked that your website was up to date and I could find stuff on it. And you know, so by the time they come here, by the time they come to our congregation, they know a fair amount. And so now they're ready. You know, they're sort of a step ahead of where people, first-time visitors, might have been 20 years ago. You kind of have to skip right up to. So how can we get you involved? You're not just exploring. You've already sort of done your research. So that's sort of an interesting phenomenon. Yes.
Question on your welcome table. Can you go into a little detail about what's on it?
Yeah, I can. It's not terribly exciting. I wish I could tell you we had something on our welcome table that really makes a difference, but we don't. It's the same UUA literature and you know, some things that are specific to our congregation, things that we've written. Some things about small group ministry, some small group ministry sign-up sheets, but it's not, you know, it's not terribly unique.
The main thing we have is people.
Yeah,
People to
Yeah.
talk to the newcomers.
Yes, yeah, and that's really the most important thing and people who are really warm and we really, I wish I could tell you the recipe. Like, how do you take the same people 20 years ago who were sort of, whatever, and now they're like really warm, comfortable, thoughtful people? I don't know. I don't know what the recipe is. Some of it was fear. Some of it was really, honestly, fear of losing our congregation. We were in such deep doo-doo. Some of it is that others modeled good behavior and modeled friendliness. Some of it was training. We have done some training. You know, people don't necessarily know the language, right? So if you'd say to somebody, here are the words that you use when you introduce yourself to somebody for the first time. Use these words.
Yeah.
And once they know those words, hi, I'm Garnet. What brought you here today? They're like, oh, that's good. You know, so once you have the language, once you've taught how to, then you become more comfortable and you're more friendly. I'm not going to say that 100% of the people in our congregation are super warm, friendly people, but boy, we have a whole lot more really super warm, friendly people who really, really like newcomers now. Really are excited by the dynamism in our congregation, are excited by it. And they want to meet people.
Slightly different question.
Mhm.
You've got communications in your title.
Mhm.
Have you worked on your little literature? You know, so often you've got trifolds and they're all different kinds. Of
Yeah. You know, I write all those. They're not that pretty. You know, it's an area of growth for us.
Yeah.
We need, first of all, we don't have any money. So everything's printed in-house, and a lot of it looks a little cruddy and, you know, whatever. But we're getting there. We're
But
getting
really,
there.
the communications that have made the difference is, again, the website being up to date,
Yeah. And
the listserv being consistent and in date order, and having, you know, just the things, The announcements in the order of service being up to date and being well written, again, in a fairly standardized method, so that, you know, the title and then the date and the time and the location. So it really helps people navigate, and it's easy to read. So I think most of the communications that have improved, the electronics are really important, because that's the most people. It's not everyone, but it's the most people you're going to reach, and making sure that stuff is up to date and it works and visually appealing. That we've been putting some new, have been putting, you know, really lovely pictures on the website, and that really helps. Well, it helps me. I like to see the pretty pictures.
Yeah, the website's critical. Website and the Facebook page. I mean, really, those, if you don't have a Facebook page, or if you have a Facebook page and you're not, you know, you sort of like it's sitting there, I really recommend, you know, stick up, if it's May Day, right? Happy May Day to everybody. Just, you know, it's really, somebody has to do it. It's not hard. The hardest part is finding somebody to do it. Somebody has to do it. It's not that hard to say. I tell you what I do. Sometime midweek, after I know exactly what's going to happen on the following Sunday, when I know the title of the sermon, our minister's not really good at knowing the title of the sermon too far in advance, but I mean, I know she's going to preach, so, or who's going to preach. So, you know, in Facebook, 9:30 every Sunday morning, and you can set Facebook to you know, post when you want it to. But at 9:30 every Sunday morning, there's something that says, hope you're up, coming to something like, hope you're up, coming to church today, don't forget your flower, it's flower communion. So at 9:30 every Sunday morning, there's some message to everybody who's got a phone with Facebook on it, saying, reminding them about anything that they need to know. Don't forget your flower, don't forget, you know, today's the newcomers orientation, so plan to stay late if this is your first time. You know, the annual meeting, whatever, and who's preaching and the title of the sermon. It's not that hard. You can do that on any time you want. Yep.
One thing we've added, which I think is nice, is the first time people come to the welcome table, we have a card with our stuff on it, and we give them a complimentary lunch.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And it's just,
that's
people
right.
are, oh, that's very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
And if you don't want to stay this time, you can bring, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
All those
Yeah.
just nice things that you do for people. I always tell people, ask what I do, and I say I have a job. My job is to be nice to people.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't used to have a job where my job was not to be nice to people. So I'm really happy. Yes.
And we give them the complimentary brunch. We have brunch after most services, so we give them that. We have this little 3-bag system where the first time you get something with a green bag, then it's blue and yellow. So, and we try to keep track of who's coming back.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure we're using all that information, but
Right.
theoretically
Yeah.
we established a system.
That's the trick, is using the information. I keep a
Right.
spreadsheet, and we try to have. We're not 100%. I'm trying to get our leaders of things to remember to do this, but I try to have sign-up sheets at every single Sunday, at every single event. Not committee meetings, but you know, every single our minister offered a set of theology classes this year, newcomers orientations, you know, all these kind of special Sunday afternoon things that we do. And they come to me, and I put them on the spreadsheet, so I can look at a newcomer, and I can see that they've gone to a newcomers orientation, that they went to 2 of honest theology classes, that they've joined a small group ministry, and you know, and that's sort of been the progression. And then I hit them up for a pledge and membership. So you kind of sort of know, you can sort of track how people are going. So anyway, moving along. So measuring success. Okay, so now you feel like we're starting to feel that things are getting better. We feel people are who are now coming to our congregation. They're saying, "Wow, this is a really friendly congregation. I really like it. You guys are awesome." But you do have to measure. You have to measure. You've got to, and this is, I kind of like numbers, so I do this. So how do you measure success? Well, we talked about this a little bit. Sunday attendance is going up. We count. Every count how many people are in worship every Sunday night. Congregational generosity, that's easy enough to measure. Leadership, are you moving people into leadership? Voting, real membership, voting people who actually vote and And remember, we have, you at least said you have to pledge. Really, what our bylaws say is that you have to complete a pledge form. They don't actually say you have to pledge.
But you have to pay.
But you have to complete a pledge form and you make payment on the pledge. So you actually have to fill out a pledge form. This is not, I'll write you a check for $20. It's not a gift of record, which a lot of congregations have. You have to have given some money. We actually require a pledge form. And it helps us really dramatically with membership. It also sort of forces people to, it's sort of a renewal of your membership, right? You're thinking about membership, and it doesn't, it keeps people from that sort of like, oh yeah, I gotta write that check for $20 really fast and get it before the annual meeting, right? So it's a little bit more intentional than just making a payment of record.
We actually have two levels there. One is that we require for membership a financial, that somebody is financially contributing, not necessarily that they've made a pledge, but of course that could be a part of it. But to be a voting member, they have to have made a pledge, a record that we can see, not just money thrown on the plate that's unidentified. And ours is now, but it gets waived by the board for hardship, is $100 because it covers the dues to the district and the UUA.
Yeah. We had a big debate about that. We decided not to make a minimum. And we decided that a minimum is sort of an invitation to give exactly the minimum. Right. So we decided that we wouldn't put a number on that.
Actually, we haven't found that to be true.
Well, and that could very well be true. Look,
most people are way above there.
Well, but we just decided not to do a minimum. And I will tell you that we've had this now, 3 or 4 years. We've only had one person ask for a waiver. One person, in those 3 years. So, and the waiver was granted.
You renew the waivers annually?
You have to renew the waivers annually. And only, by the way, the way we do it is only the minister can give a waiver. We don't want people to have to go to the board and ask for a waiver. But, different congregations do it different ways. So voting membership and then enrollment in RE. So those are the ways that I measure success. So what's happening in Brooklyn? That's sermon attendance, 1980 to the present. This is the early years. I didn't count every year from 1980. So you kind of went every 5 years. You can see we kind of limped along, and then right in here is where we start going year to year. You can see that now. I want to tell you, this is just the sermon. This does not include the Sunday school. Our Sunday school has been a little bit more flat, honestly. It's an area of growth for us. We have about 50 kids in our Sunday school. We've had about 50 kids in our Sunday school for a long time. We are not really good at keeping our youth, but we're getting better. We're getting better. And we have a new director of religious education this year, and I think she's going to make some real differences in things. So Sunday school is a growing edge for us. But this is sermon. We count during the sermon. So these are people who are sitting in the church during the sermon.
What happened in 2012 that you took that huge jump?
2011.
2011. Anna Levy. Her name would be Anna Levy Lyons. We were.
9/11?
No, 9/11. Oh, you mean here? This is here. This is 9/11. This is where we took this huge jump, like 2 years ago, 12/13. Yeah, and that's now. I want to say that.
Who is that minister?
We have a new minister. She's awesome. She's very young, and she's an incredible preacher. And we've always had incredible preaching in our church, but this is me talking. I just want to tell you what I think personally. This is my personal. This is Garnet. This is the gospel according to Garnet. I believe that the reason why our congregation has jumped, because we haven't made huge changes in just the last 2 years. I mean, these are things that have been going on for a long time, right? But Anna came and we just flew. We were prepared to fly. We were ready. It was all, the pieces were all in place. And it was one of the reasons why she came to our congregation, because we said, we have done all of these things. We have started small group ministry. We've done these things. We have dealt with our issues. We've got our budget under control. We've got our staff under control. We know what's going on. So she was able to come to us. We were ready to take off. But one thing that I think has happened in our congregation and this may resonate with some of you, we stopped being afraid of religious language. Anna is a theist, and she's not really afraid, or theist or something, but anyway, she's not afraid to use the word God. She's not afraid to talk about coming to church. She's not afraid to talk about Jesus. She's not afraid, now, this doesn't mean we're Christian, we're not, but we have really discovered that the young people who are coming into our church are not afraid of any of this stuff. They're just not. They're not necessarily Christian, but they are really interested in explorations of these issues. They want to talk about God. In fact, Anna leads a small group ministry where God language was the prerequisite. She wanted to lead a small group ministry for people who want to talk about God, who want to talk about God, ideas about God. And her small group ministry is packed. It's packed. In fact, it had too many people in it. It wasn't a small group, so we had to sort of work on that. So, honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why we're growing the way we're growing. I know, it makes people, I can see,
Well,
there's
it's not
fear.
for us.
Fear,
I know.
fear in everybody's eyes, I see it. But that's really, I think, truthfully, that's a lot of what's going on in our congregation.
And she's done it in a way that atheists like myself are not alienated. So we have many atheists, religious humanists in the congregation, and it's not like she's talking about God all the time, but the way that she does it is embraces people of all theological perspectives. So, but she doesn't shy away from, and she does talk about, so even for us who are atheists, she does talk about Unitarian Universalism as a religion and expects us to be religious people.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, in a couple of seconds, we're going to talk about a couple of things that are sort of interesting that are going on. So anyway, that's what's going on in Brooklyn on Sundays. This is what's going on in Brooklyn in the last 4 years with congregational giving. That's about a 7% increase in every year, by the way. Go ahead, Lee, and it sort of speaks for herself. And here's membership. So this is the year we changed the bylaws. Right here. Now, we didn't lose people, we just lost members. Because if you weren't filling out a pledge form, you suddenly weren't a voting member of the congregation anymore. So we didn't, people were still there, but the membership went down. So in 4 years, we've gone from 210, which, by the way, I'm not so sure we were counting. One of the reasons why I really hate membership as like your primary source of how good are we, is because you can't. It's not comparable, right? It's your congregation counts members totally different from the way that his congregation counts members. And so I hate when the UUA says, "Oh, well, we're growing or we're not growing." Well, how do you know? I mean, a new board comes in and they change the bylaws and the members are different. I mean, it's just it's kind of an icky measurement, right? But you can see that we thought we had 210 members. I don't even know if that's a good number or not. That was before I was counting. And we dropped to 172 members, and now actually that number is probably a little closer to 230 members this year. So we will have 35 new members this year.
How do you already know your 2015 number?
Well, it's because when you audit your numbers for the UUA, you're giving them numbers for 2015, for the 2015 fiscal year. Okay, so it's the number that we audited our number at to the UUA. Okay. But our current number, our real number, is 230. Okay, so that was the number in February when we audited. Okay. Yeah.
So go back to how many visitors you have.
Yeah, so we have like we have 300 measurable, countable visitors so far this year. 300.
So
Since
that's
September.
where are we? We're in May now.
Yeah.
So that doesn't, to me, that doesn't compute with the membership growth. I mean, are you seeing, are the visitors staying? Are they becoming members? What percentage?
Well, I wish I could figure out a way to figure that out, because that's obviously, you want to be able to say, well, how many people visit, how many people get to come back, and how many people. You really can't do that, because sometimes it takes years for people to become members. I mean, some people will join, they'll come, you know, in January, and by March they want to sign the membership book. Some people have been coming for 2 or 3 years before they sign the membership. Some people come and they sign the membership and they disappear for 3 years, and then they come back with their kids. And, you know, so it's really hard to sort of get a real good gauge on how many people who visit become members. You know, I haven't been doing this I've only been doing this for less than a year, so that's a statistics I'd really like to figure out how to get to. I can tell you how many visitors who are visitors for the first time this year became members this year. And obviously, that is a very low number. If you have 300 members, we're not getting 300 visitors, we're not getting 300 members. But what I'd really like to do is see a 5-year trend. Like how many people visit over a 5-year period and become members. I think that's probably a more useful figure because it does take varying amounts of time. It's going to be low. It's going to be a low number. I mean, you know, it's really not, most people come. They come because they're curious. They come because they're hurting. And in Brooklyn, they come because they're in Brooklyn and then they're not in Brooklyn anymore. You know, they come because my favorite visitors to our congregation are the parents of young adults who drag their kids to church. You know, and they're all, it's so funny. They stand. You know, we ask people to stand up and introduce themselves. So you get, you know, hi, I'm Mary, and I'm from the UU congregation in Minneapolis, and I'd like to introduce you to my son, James, who I'm visiting here in Brooklyn. We get a lot of that, and you know, poor James is going, but you know, who knows?
I was writing something down and I missed, I think, something you said. Did you refer to a system for you track people, like you can see they've come for the first time, then they go to a small group, and
keep it on a spreadsheet.
Okay, so that's just an Excel spreadsheet that you. And how do you know that they've been to a small group? And all
They have to
these
sign in.
things?
Well, I mean, you know, I know I work with the small group ministry team, so I know who's in the small groups. Like I said, I we always have a sign-up sheet at newcomers orientation, always, because I'm there and I make sure that happens. And I really encourage people who lead other things to have sign-up sheets. Most do most of the time, and they give them back to me, and I just, you know, create a column, and you know, I put the date in, you know, and so I can kind of see what people, you know, who are the people who are more active. And the truth is, more people who are doing more things are more likely to become members.
And do you focus more attention into encouraging those more active people to become members?
Well, yeah.
You see, like, okay, they've been to 5 of these things.
Yeah.
I really should.
Yeah, I sort of make a little more, you know, effort. It's a little, yes, yeah,
And,
yeah.
And what are the things that you record them as attending?
Newcomers orientations, small group ministries, fudge dinners, you know, any kind of special event that we might have, like, you know, like I said, Anna, our senior minister, did a 3-part theology class this year. She had sign-in sheets for all of that.
WFD forums.
Yeah, a forum, Weaving the Fabric of Diversity forum. You know, anything that happens like on a Sunday afternoon that's any enrichment activities, not a committee meeting. I don't, you know,
or a holiday party.
Right, or not a holiday party because I'm not gonna ask people to sign. But anything that's an enrichment experience, an opportunity. I think Anna has a term for it. It's like after worship enrichment, or I forget what she calls it, but anyway, anything that happens that's beyond worship, that you can actually have a sign-up sheet, you know, or sign in. It's not a sign-up sheet, sign-in sheet. And I just ask for the name and the email address. That's it.
That's great.
It's really, I tell you, it is hugely useful to me.
I think for us that would be a really big culture change, because we don't do any kind of sign-in. You know, it's just whoever shows up, that's who's there. And
you just put a piece of paper.
Yeah.
All you have to do is put a piece of paper on the
sign.
table and say, can everybody please put your name and email address, because we'd like to know you were here. That's it. It's not
And
that
everybody
complicated.
signs in, including
Yeah.
members.
I mean,
Well, if you don't, we don't know.
yeah.
But you're only tracking the new people, is that?
Yes, this is particularly for new, right.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
particularly for new
Is that really true? I mean, the members sign in as well?
Yeah, everybody who's here sign in and, whatever.
You're only
It's
focused
not
on-
like it's not that hard.
You're focusing on that 300.
That's right. That's
You
exactly
That
right.
makes
don't want to
sense.
set the newcomers apart because they're.
Yeah, I'm not gonna stand there and say, if you're new here, please sign, if you're not a member, sign in. Just everybody who came, please let us know you were here. It has other uses too, by the way. We're if you're starting a new program, and this is gonna be a first time meeting for here's an example. We just started a living wage task force, right? And they're gonna start working on some living wage issues. They had their first meeting. The facilitator wants to know who was there, right? Who's here? Who are we going to follow up with? Who might be interested in participating with us further? So she makes a copy for herself and she makes a copy for me. And then I look and I go, oh, look, these 6 or 7 people all came for the first time this year. Living wage tax, LWTF. 719. It's really, look, I'm in the office, right? I work for the church. So this is my job. This is what I can do. This would be harder for a volunteer to do.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. Unless you had some really dedicated volunteer who just loves to sit down with a spreadsheet and do this stuff. We did invest in that. And it's really useful. And it's so great to be able to call somebody up and say, hi, I saw that you've been to a newcomers orientation. Or email somebody and say, look, you've been around and you've done these 3 or 4 things. Are you interested in membership? We will be having a book signing next month. I'd be more than happy to facilitate that. Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit more about that actual step-by-step path to membership. Garnet, is it a next slide? I feel like
No,
I feel like I missed it.
Okay.
So anyway, so we do have all these activities for people to be involved in. Garnet's busy tracking who attends what, and several of us on membership are trying to keep our eyes open, who's new and active, and who might be ready to join. And we currently have, we work out with the senior minister, membership Sundays. We have membership Sundays currently 4 times a year. And so as we approach a membership Sunday about a month before, Garnet goes through her list, all right, and we have a membership committee meeting, and we say, all right, who looks like, who's been around for a while, who's been active, who might be ready for membership, and come up with that list of people, and we have a member who sends out an email to those people saying, membership Sunday is coming up, new member Sunday is coming up on this date, we thought you might be interested, let us know. We ask people who are interested in becoming a member to sign an intent to join.
We have copies of them if you want.
Intent to join form, and which includes some language like, I've been coming for a while, I feel that this place is the right place for me, and I support the mission of the congregation.
And the Right Relations
And the
Covenant.
Right Relations Covenant.
Yes.
And people sign that saying that they are intending to join, and that's one of the ways we know that people are interested in joining, because it doesn't just happen when we call people do it on their own. And then when we have a number of people who say, yes, oh yes, I really I'm liking it here, it feels like the right place for me, I am ready to join, those names go to Garnet, and she passes them on to the stewardship team, or she does it herself, and those people are canvassed. They cannot join until they make a pledge. And that has been the biggest help to our congregation. It really helps pledging. It's very hard to get people into the culture of pledging if they aren't asked to pledge before they join. And when they are prepared, when they know that membership includes pledging, and we start talking about that at the newcomers orientation. We tell them that's what that's one of the things that membership involves, is making a financial commitment. And I remember co-leading one, and a young woman was there who had grown up Catholic, and she said, I signed an intent to join, but I didn't realize it was such a big deal. I think I better think about this for a little while. I said, great, perfect, you should think about it for a little while. You don't know anything about Unitarian Universalism? You should think a minute or two before you join. Of course, someone is transferring from another congregation, that's a different thing. But anyhow, so we pledge people before they join. We have a small breakfast the morning of the joining, and then we have a ceremony in worship, which includes a covenantal kind of litany between the president of the board, our new members, and also the congregation. And it's a religious act, and it's an important act. They're saying words. They're gonna support the congregation, and we're gonna support them. And I think that makes it important to them. We do a number of things for them. We have a party for them at the end of the year. Everyone who's joined in the year. We must have skipped that slide, because we also recognize our long-term members, and it's coming up.
No, maybe not.
We skipped it.
Yep.
So we recognize once a year, we recognize our long-term members, people who've been with us 10, 25, 40, 50 years, and have a service of the living tradition. We combine it with our annual meeting. People come for the old timers to recognize them, and then they stay for the meeting. People come for the meeting, and they stay they are there to recognize our longtime members. Honoring members.
Yeah,
there they are. Service of living tradition. We have a member of the month. Every month we recognize someone in our congregation. We try to alternate between someone who's been well known, perhaps president of the board, and then someone who is behind the scenes and nobody knows, and we recognize them. And again, I think that tells newcomers who we are as a religion. We're people who value our members and recognize them and honor them in our worship services, and it also educates everyone the kinds of things people do in our congregations that are so important and valuable to us. So that's a really great thing.
Year-round stewardship. If you're not doing year-round stewardship, I definitely recommend it.
And
It
thank you
changes-
notes.
Yeah, and thank you
Thank you
notes.
notes. Nothing's nicer than getting a thank you note
Yeah.
saying, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, thank you for all the work you did on the church fair, on the church supper, on religious education class, for filling in. Those handwritten notes really make people feel appreciated.
So it's 5 o'clock. We need to let you guys know. So just want to tell you, worship and religious education, small group ministries, adult RE classes, young adult classes, lay worship leaders, chalice lighting, sober words at all meetings. We do offer OWL. These are all some of the things the Sabbath Project, if anybody wants to ask me about the Sabbath Project, it's really interesting. And I know it's really unique to our congregation. Just started. It's a brand new thing. Coming of age program, bridging, all of these kind of religious, spiritual things that we do. And I think we're doing them better now than we ever have. This is real. In fact, I'm sorry we missed this one, because this is the meat of it, I think, in a lot of ways. Anyway, thank you all for coming.